Hello everybody, and welcome to my stationery channel, Tiny Tiger Collective. And thank you for being here on my first video on YouTube. My name is Helena, and I've decided to ring in the new year with this brand new channel to share my love for journals, planners, fountain pens, stickers, and other stationery goodies. In this video, I'd like to share what journals and planners I've been using in 2024, reflect on what worked and didn't work for me, and how I think I might find planner peace in 2025. Set that aside for now. My main experiment this year was trying an all-in-one system where I managed my work and life and kept everything in between in this one Hobonichi Cousin. From April, I used this book with my Mina Perhonen Symphony Yellow zipper case, but I quickly found that this was just a little bit too bulky and heavy to carry around with me to and from work every day. So since the last release in October, I picked up this gorgeous Yumi Kitagishi letter cover that I find just a little bit more streamlined for everyday use. So inside the cover is my April start Hobonichi Cousin in Japanese. I actually picked up this book while my family and I were traveling in Japan, and we had the enormous pleasure of going to the official Tobichi store in Tokyo, and I was able to see the covers and accessories in person and pick up this book. When I was thinking about moving into this book, I easily watched upwards of 100 videos on YouTube of people who had used the Hobonichi Cousin and sharing how and what they wrote in each of the different spreads. I came up with an idea for how I wanted to use all of the different parts of this book, but as it always is, in reality, some of what I fantasized that I would use this book for didn't quite play out exactly I had planned. So first I thought that I would have yearly pages as a bit of an index to flip back on over the years. So I started by keeping a very brief sentence of what was the key event that I wrote about on each of the daily pages. I kept that up for just a month and a half when my feelings about this book dramatically changed. And I wasn't sure that I wanted to keep this book as an archive of my life. And I was feeling pretty certain by May that I was going to be recycling this book at the end of the 12-month period. So because of that and how overwhelming it was to actually maintain this book on a daily basis, I didn't keep up with the yearly index. I did a little bit better with the monthlies. So with the monthly spreads, what I found was quite a lot of fun was to write an overview about each day, focusing on the main events, the key blessings that happened that day, and what I really wanted to remember about each day. So I decorated the monthly pages, and I was able to fill up every box with sort of 3 or 4 different things that happened on those days that I wanted to remember when I flipped through the book. When I was researching what to write in my Hobonichi Cousin, the YouTubers that inspired me the most would have been Helen from the Coffee Monsters Co., Elle's Books, Lauren from Theory of Lauren, and Megan Rhiannon. One of the things that I learned from Theory of Lauren was to write these monthly recaps where at the end of the month, I would write what I was celebrating, learning, releasing, welcoming, and what I'd been inspired by. And I found that really rewarding to reflect back month by month and to capture those key things that were on my mind and in my heart. Perhaps in purchasing the Cousin, what I was most excited about were these vertical weekly pages. I had seen so many examples in the incredibly talented people I listed before who just create magnificent art in their weekly pages where they would track what they were doing, the milestones, the key events, along with beautiful stickers, decorations, and doodles. Now, when I started keeping the weeklies, first I realized how hard it was actually reading these numbers, and there were a lot of times where I would write the wrong time or frequently write the wrong date. So already I realized that the fantasy of how these spreads would look didn't quite meet with reality. I also decorated some of the key events with these beautiful stickers that I purchased in Japan. But I also found that even though I think I spent quite a lot of money and collect a lot of stickers, because I was sort of putting down 1 or 2 stickers per day, I realized that I was going to be running out of stickers by June. So it became really difficult to imagine how keeping up with weekly spreads was going to remain sustainable. So in fact, after a few months, I decided to kind of really pull back. And then in truth, I also felt that I was using a lot of the weekly spreads more as a way to backlog what happened rather than really as a functional way to plan. I still prefer to plan in a digital calendar, so I'm able to move things around to reflect the fact that appointments get cancelled, sometimes at the last minute, or they get postponed, delayed, rescheduled, and it was very difficult to make those sorts of changes in a way that made it still legible. So unfortunately, the weekly pages was not something that I was able to keep up with. But one thing that I really enjoyed keeping weekly was I tracked my sleep on the left-hand column, and I also kept a little record for my own personal interests of what I was reading that week, so what books I was reading, what I was watching, so whether it was YouTube channels that I had fallen in love with and was binging, or sometimes they were documentaries and TV shows. And I also kept up with what I was listening, so whether it was a podcast or sometimes if it was an album that I happened to have on repeat. And in some weeks where it was applicable, I would write also what game I was playing as well. And I actually really love this because I do find that I get into different interests and fall down the rabbit holes of either a podcast or a book or a YouTube channel. And it is really nice to be able to flip back and remember, oh yeah, that's right. In May, I read that terrible series of books, and but I was having a lot of fun listening to cello playlists on YouTube. So that brings me to my daily pages. Now, what I found was my first time keeping an A5 size journal was that there was a huge adjustment in getting used to writing so much every day. So in the very, very early weeks, I would actually find that my hands would cramp up because I wasn't used to physically writing so many words every single day. That said, I only use the right-hand side of each daily page to keep the journaling entries. And what I do with all my pages is that I have a little section on the left where I would draw a tarot card a day and use that to inform a kind of guide or suggestion for what intention I wanted to bring in with the day. I would then write if there was sort of like a key priority of what I wanted to do. I would write an affirmation, and I would write one thing that I was grateful for. And I'd keep the bottom half of the left-hand column for a list of running tasks. At the top, I would write where in the world I'm located. I would sometimes write what time of the day that I was writing. I would write about the weather, and I would write how I was feeling or my mood. Because the first couple of weeks of keeping this journal, I was still traveling through Japan, I had a lot of time. Usually when my son was napping in the hotel room, we couldn't really go out anyway. I would just have 1 or 2 hours during that time to write about, all the wonderful things that we had done and what we had seen and what our plans were. And of course, this was the perfect honeymoon period in a new planner. Unfortunately, when I was returning home from Japan, I had an unfortunate set of circumstances where this planner, along with my other 2024 planner, was left in my carry-on luggage. And while I was browsing a stationery store, of all places, near my boarding gate, waiting for my plane to arrive, I accidentally left my carry-on luggage outside that store, and I boarded the plane completely forgetting about my whole bag. And fortunately, as you can tell, I did get my luggage back. If you want to lose anything anywhere, you'd sure like to hope that it was in Japan, because the wonderful store owner ended up finding my luggage outside the store, handed into Lost and Found. And after I returned home, fearing that I was never ever going to see this book and my old book again, I did actually manage to call up Haneda Airport, speak to Lost and Found, locate my bag, and organize for my suitcase to be sent to a friend of ours who lives in Japan, who then sent along all the contents to me. So you'll see that there are actually a few sparse pages and blank pages, because this was during the period where I had lost my luggage and lost access to this book. So fortunately, all I had to wait for was until April the 19th, when my friend mailed this book back to me, and I was overjoyed to be able to get it all back. But back at home, I quickly realized that maintaining my full-time job and having to keep this journal, it was a lot. And it would easily take me an hour and a half each day to fill out my daily spreads, and also very, very quickly maintain the weekly and the monthly pages. So during this period, May and June, I really struggled to keep maintaining this book. And I also felt very uncomfortable keeping everything in the one place, because I realized that I would be writing about, precious, happy memories that I wanted to treasure about me and my family, alongside weeks where I was journaling about, stress that I was experiencing at work and just venting about those difficult days. I had days here, this was Mother's Day, where my son and my partner went out early in the morning and picked up croissants at a local farmer's market and brought me a bunch of flowers. And I tore out the stamp from the flowers and put it in here. So I had these kind of really, really lovely moments where every time I open up this page, I smile, but then it'd be alongside, like dentist appointments or a note that I did laundry that day. And I really thought that I was the kind of person who would want everything in the one book for the convenience, for kind of seeing my whole life laid out in its nitty-gritty everyday beauty. But it really did actually end up feeling more disorganized and chaotic. What about you? Are you the kind of person who likes having everything in the one book and, you don't mind this being a very real reflection of your everyday life, the mundane, the bad, the ugly, and the good? Or are you someone who likes to keep things more compartmentalized? Because I really didn't think I was a compartmentalized person until I started keeping this book. So it was only in May that I really thought, I don't think I'd want to keep this book as an archive, and I'm happy I have it as a space to journal, to vent, to keep track of my appointments and tasks, but that maybe at the end of these 12 months of keeping this book, I would probably be recycling. I have a page here where I really enjoyed these chocolates that week, so I tore out the cover and stuck it in. And I also let my son play around with his crayons and decorate this page. And for most of this book, you'll see that I was using Sailor Yozakura ink, and this is platinum carbon black. But then I also later in the year decided to experiment with my different inks as well in this Tomoe River paper. And so this is Yozakura from the Sailor Shikiori ink line. But then this was Pirate Uroshizuku Kirisame. This is Celadon Cat from Diamine. So this is the book that I've been keeping. I have actually gotten more used to keeping this book every day. I can say that my hands don't cramp up now when I fill out a weekly spread or daily spread. It generally can take me, say, 30 minutes in order to write the page, particularly if I'm doing very straightforward memory keeping and I'm just writing about perhaps, a very eventful weekend, and I'd write about what I got up to. That can be very quick and efficient. But not quite exactly how I imagined using this book. And I learned a lot of lessons about myself and how my brain works and what I like and what I don't like. But this has been my companion for the latter half of this year. Now, this is actually my first ever Hobonichi journal. I purchased this in July 2023. And this is the A6 size Hobonichi Techo original. So this was an April start of 2023. And so I did keep it for the first 3 months of 2024. This is what I use as more or less a baby book. So I purchased this book with the intent to journal about all the things that my son gets up to for this first 2 years of his life. So I kept some key milestones, and then mostly I spent my time in the daily pages where I would write about all the different things that we got up to in the day. I would keep the left-hand side as a bit of a schedule where I'll write about sort of what time he woke up, when he went for his nap, rough nights, I might note, all through midnight, all the times he woke up, all the times he stirred or cried or needed to be fed. But then I would keep the right-hand side as a space to write about something really memorable, really precious that I wanted to treasure. And I actually wrote this entire book in the second person, so as if my son was reading this book in the future. So I would say, you did this, you said this, we did this together. And this is honestly such a delight to keep. It was at a really difficult time of my child's life and me trying to figure out becoming a new mom, and writing this book helped me stay grounded. It helped me really savor the sometimes difficult but really meaningful, really intimate and tender moments in me and my son's life. And I really credit this book as helping me develop my confidence and my comfort as a mother as well. So I actually finished journaling in this book in March. And so that's when I had decided to move into the larger Hobonichi Cousin from April the 1st. But honestly, in the last 9 months, I have really missed keeping a baby book. So spoiler for the next video, when I show you my 2025 lineup, I have decided to reintroduce a A6 Techo original to use as a baby book for next year. So those were the planners that I kept on a daily basis. I did actually also have a couple of journals that I used more occasionally. So I have these two Traveler's Company notebooks that I used for more kind of special hobbies. Now, this one is a Tokyo Station exclusive that I picked up on holidays. So I've got the exclusive brown regular size notebook with the exclusive charm of the Marunouchi building. And in here is where I've decided to house my travel scrapbook. And it's actually quite a minimalist kind of scrapbook where I have kind of little highlights of the day we landed. This is when we actually visited the Marunouchi building where I picked up this book and the charm. And this is actually an Instax photo of my son playing outside the Marunouchi building that is featured at the front of this notebook and on the brass tag as well. So these are just spaces where I've got little bits of ephemera, little photographs, little things that I've clipped out from the brochures of where we visited that kind of really signal to me, sometimes very quietly, where we were and how we felt during that time. So I'm hoping to keep up this little scrapbook for all my family vacations. And in April next year, I'm actually planning to travel to the US with my family for the first time. And I'm hoping that the second half of the book will be very helpful to start journaling some of those memories as well. I have a sticker release paper where I've rescued one of the Traveler's Factory labels from the gift bag, and but I haven't quite found the time to fill this up with all my stickers, but this will definitely be something that I need to do in order to stay organized. The other Traveler's notebook I have is also a brown regular cover. This was a birthday gift from 2 years back, purchased from an Australian stationery store called Bookbinder's Design that my partner got for me. And inside this lovely cover, I have a regular dotted inset. I have to say that's probably my favorite inset. And this is my commonplace book where I keep memorable quotes from the books that I've been reading. Now, this is something that I work on in bursts of energy. So whenever I've been reading something particularly inspiring, I'll make a note, I'll put in like a post-it note, or I'll highlight if I'm reading digitally the really key things that I want to remember and take away with me. And when I have the time and energy, I'll usually sit down over a weekend and capture all the things that I want to remember in this book. So I'm not very far along in it yet, but this is just the kind of occasional book that I love dipping into when I've got the time and energy to do so. So this was also a journal that I started this year. Thank you so much for being here in my first video. It means so much to me, especially if you've stayed until the end. I want to give a very special thank you to my friend Libby for encouraging me to start this YouTube channel and for her continual support. I also want to say that this channel wouldn't exist without Lau from Kenshin Crafts, Alison from Little Coco Studio, and Jen from Jen, who have all inspired me so much this year to express my love for stationery, planners, and fountain pens through video. I created this channel to make a greater effort at building community with other stationery lovers. So I've committed a lot of time and energy into making these videos next year, but I also want to devote equally as much time to engaging with all of you in the comments. So if you have watched this, I invite you to say hello in the comments and subscribe to follow my future videos. Next week, I'll be sharing my planner lineup for 2025 and all the things that I'm trying to do in pursuit of planner peace. So really hope you stay along in this journey with me. And thank you so much for being here. See you in the next video.